And
Welcome to Devoted Dad podcast. I'm your host, Scott Cramer, and today we have an incredible guest joining us. Ron Turner, the dynamic voice behind Rockandmetalnewz, is here to share his unique perspective on fatherhood. Not only is Ron a renowned figure in the world of rock and metal music, he's also a devoted dad who uses his passion for music to connect with his children. In this episode, we'll dive into Ron's journey as a musician and father, exploring how he intertwines his professional life with his family life and the powerful role music plays in their bond. So sit back, relax, and get ready to be inspired by Ron Turner's story on the Devoted Dad podcast. How you doing, Ron? Nice to see you.
hey, Scott, nice to see you as well. Looking forward to it.
Yeah, awesome. So can you share a bit about your journey as a musician and a father?
Sure. I started I started listening to music when I was extremely young, loved all of it. I got into sort of more of the heavy side of music when I was a teenager. My parents took a risk and bought me a drum set when I was a teenager, so I started playing drums. I've been playing now for over 40 years, and I'm in a couple of bands, so I still continue to play in bands and record music. And I just love all sorts of music, mostly heavy metal. I kind of grew up with the 80s vibe, so I like all genres of music, but I really have a soft spot for the 1980s, big bands like Black Sabbath, Iron Maiden, Judas Priest kind of stuff. But I follow all the music, and because I run Rockandmetalnewz, I have to keep up on all the stuff, new and old. So very much still in the business with keeping up on the news of music.
Yeah. Well, that's fantastic. I remember those 80s bands as well, especially Judas Priest and Ozzy Osbourne and a lot of those types of bands. There's a big
Yes.
fan of, right? Yeah. Well, how has becoming a father influenced your relationship with music?
Well, when we had our first child, or when my first child was in the womb, my wife used to actually play classical music through headsets on her belly. So our first child is a musician, believe it or not, of course, after all that. But it, it it's it was really interesting because I know that we played a lot of music when my son was who is a musician now, named Lil God. He's played in metal bands, and now he's kind of a vocalist, but he's played drums. um we started off very young because there was always music playing in our house, and he always had a beat. He was always swing. So he got his first drum set probably when he was a year and a half. It was a kind of one of those plastic ones that you could just sit behind and make some noise. But when he was about 3 or 4, he got a cool small drum set, but it was kind of real, the kind they sell at Costco that are, they're real drums, but they're small. And from then on, it just took off. And it, there was always music playing, and he always loved music and always had the beat for sure since he was
Mhm.
very young.
Yeah, that's amazing that you're a drummer and he became a drummer. Does your son play any other instruments as well, or?
Not really. For myself, I drum and sing. He drums. He was drumming, and he was drumming in some, pretty heavy bands. And now he is a vocalist. So he kind of moved away from the drums, but he had a really kind of great career with the bands in his drums. He was in a band called Galactic Pegasus, and he
Mhm.
was in some other bands. He filled in for some tours for bands that didn't have a drummer a couple of times. So he's still really, and he was really heavy into the scene. Um, he was actually the kind of the mind behind Rockandmetalnewz. We started that approximately 12 to 13 years ago on YouTube, and it was his
Wow.
initial idea that got us going.
Yeah. Well, that's fantastic. Um, so how, so the next that kind of is a nice segue into the next question. Like, how do you incorporate music into your daily life with your children? Do you still share working on rock and metal news with him? Or do you
Oh
actually
yeah.
play in a band with him and he plays with you, or
Well, basically, a lot of our interactions started, we still go to concerts together. In the early part of Rockandmetalnewz, we used to go down to clubs in Vancouver and interview bands together. So I would be the interviewer, or he would be the interviewer. The other person would be the cameraman. So
Mm,
we really had a great bond back then, and we kind of partnered up a little bit with Metal Blade. So the bands that came to town, they would let us know, and they would
mhm,
ask if we wanted to do an interview. So Dallas and I would go down there and meet the bands. We would be in a bus. We would be in a back alley. I mean, you know, the back alleys of Vancouver, and
mhm.
I mean, right down in there. And we would go behind the clubs in the alleys of Vancouver and interview bands there. So we kind of had a real bond there as a partnership doing that. As it moved on, I would help him almost be his roadie. So when he started into being in bands himself, I would help transport the drums. We would actually rent a lot of PA. So he actually became a bit of a promoter as well. And he would, before he was even driving. So, I mean, he was really into music when he was 16, 17, 18 and promoting bands and actually holding concerts. So I would have to
Mm,
use my credit card, go to Long and McQuaid, rent a
mhm,
full PA system, lighting. We would bring it to we would rent a place, and we would actually throw the concert, and we would bond, together through that.
mhm.
And now it's kind of morphed into, um, he's a great mixer and recorder as well. So we listen to each other's music, and we give each other tips, and he'll say, what do you think of this mix? What do you think of these vocals? What do you think of these lyrics? And he'll, do the same for me. I'll run it by him. He runs his stuff by me. We kind of
Mhm.
collaborate to maybe make different suggestions. And of course, we still go to concerts together and love, we've been to many concerts, 50, at least 50, 60, 70 concerts together over the years. So we still
Wow.
are doing that. Yeah.
That sounds incredible. It reminds me of like a father that has the passion of fishing with his son, right? They can go out and they can share that same love of fishing, and they can really get involved in that aspect, that activity together, and bond over that. And it's amazing to hear your experience and how you're bonding with your son. How has music affected your relationship, or how do you with your daughter and your wife? The
Well, my wife met me during one of our band practices when we first met. She actually came with the vocalist for our band. She came to one of our practices,
Oh, so she
and
was a
then
groupie then.
yeah, yeah, her first groupie experience. So she came with the vocalist, and I was playing drums, and I kept looking up, and she kept looking at me, and I'm thinking, well, you came here with the other guy, but you keep sort of looking at me. And then it sort of, as the night went on, the vocalist, he came up to me, goes, Ron, actually, I think she likes you better. So that's actually how we met, and it's
Yeah,
ever since. So, my wife is very much into music as well. She loves the 50s, 60s, and 70s kind of music, mostly the 50s. It's very interesting because
right,
I didn't listen to a lot of 50s music, and she knew a lot about it. So
right.
she got me into the early 50s stuff. And the old sock hops and the old the real early Beatles and a lot of that stuff she introduced me to. So I love it. I mean, I love all that stuff.
Mhm,
And for my daughter was, we didn't really experiment much with the music together and listen to it together and do different genres. She was more of a kind of a pop kind of a girl, for just the regular pop and the radio. So we really didn't correspond too much about music. But she does love it, and she does love to sing, but we never I don't think I've been to a concert. My wife took her to a couple of concerts that were kind of pop concerts and things like
mhm,
that. But you know, I didn't really spend a lot of time with my daughter and music. She was just very independent and just listened to whatever she wanted, and didn't really come to me with any musical kind of questions. The one thing is, though, that's interesting is she does have two songs now, because she's an influencer, and she has two
mhm,
songs on Spotify, and she did pretty
mhm.
good with them.
Oh,
So she
wow.
she is a singer, and she has a
Mhm.
couple out there. So if you want to
Well, it
hear
sounds
Mackenzie
like
Turner,
you're a very creative family. and you fostered that creative spirit within your family, and it's influenced a lot of the decisions made in your family. From you meeting your wife, through music and connecting and bonding with that. You and your son connecting and developing a bond through music and going to all of these different amazing activities that you had to one another. And it sounds like it created a sense of creativity with your daughter by being in that kind of energy within the family, that she was able to take her creativity in another direction. So maybe you can talk a little bit about that.
Sure. Yeah, my daughter, she's an influencer, Mackenzie Turner. She does YouTube and she does TikToks and things like that. So she has quite a following on that. And
So she's a bit of an entertainer then.
yeah, she's like an entertainer. She's almost
Yeah.
like a little actress, right? She does like
Yeah.
role-playing video games on YouTube, and she can sing, and she does TikToks, and she does some dramatic, she's getting into more of a little bit of dramatic. She has a couple of channels, and she does
Mm-hmm.
some little bit of more dramatic videos as well as the role play video game channels. And
Mm-hmm.
so, she always runs things by me as well,
Mm-hmm.
about different scripts or how is this sounding. Dallas and I, we wrote a bunch of songs for her, and she would kind of choose the songs she liked to maybe record or choose the lyrics, and we kind of collaborated. We collaborated on a Christmas song. So she's got a Christmas song on Spotify, and
Mm-hmm.
we collaborated fully, me, Dallas, and Mackenzie on that song. And my
Oh,
son did
wow.
all the production. She wrote half the lyrics, I wrote some lyrics, and Dallas wrote some lyrics.
Yeah, so that stands out as a very special moment for you, doesn't it?
Oh yeah, I'm
Yeah.
so proud of both of my children. The way they have used their entrepreneurship regarding the internet and their music and their artistic styles to create their own jobs. They're definitely not the standard children that are going out to get a 9 to 5 job. That just will not happen with my children. They're both very independent and very they have their own way of going out to create their own jobs and create their own money and revenues.
Mm-hmm. I think that's a very important aspect to entrepreneurship is having that creative aspect to your mind, thinking outside of the box. And I think that music plays a big role in that, in helping people to access that creative aspect in in their thinking.
Yeah.
So how do you believe music benefits your children's development, both emotionally and cognitively?
Well, I think emotionally, I mean, music can touch your soul in so many ways. And when you're writing your own music, you can create the lyrics that are so personal. So I know my son, he writes, like, his music is very emotional because he writes about events that have happened in his life. I write about events like that too, not usually personal events, but I write more about events that happen in the world and things like that. So, certain people can have an emotional tie to a certain event that takes place. And I like to write things like that. My son likes to write emotionally from experience that he has come across. So you can really
Mhm.
hear that in the music. And my daughter, she writes some of her actual shows regarding of events that have happened in her life. So I think it's very emotional. I mean, I'll hear songs and it'll just, I mean, songs that I hear sometimes, I'll cry because it just hits me so deep.
Mm.
But I really feel music deeply. Like, I really listen to music. I don't surface listen to music. I listen to everything, and it can just give me goosebumps talking about certain music that I listen to. I was listening to a Tool song the other day, and I was just getting shivers from the
Mhm.
lyrics and the way they construct that. So I think emotionally, all of us are affected by music.
Mhm. Yeah, how does the your wife um how does she feel about you being able to, like, the connection that music creates within your family? How does she respond to that?
Well, I think my wife is it's interesting because what she does is she really gives a third party perspective. So,
Mhm.
us, especially me in Dallas, being very technical about the music and how everything is, we really analyze it, we overthink it. And she'll come in
Mhm.
and she'll just go, well, guys, why are you saying that here in this line? What does that mean? Or she'll be, why don't you guys maybe repeat that lyric twice instead of just doing it once?
Mm.
And we're like, whoa, like, where did that come from? She'll be just in the kitchen, maybe doing something, cooking or doing something in the kitchen and listening to some of our mixes. And she'll just walk out and give her perspective on it, which is great because it's not coming from a real, overthinking musician's mind. It's coming from a person that's just listening. So I
Mhm.
think she loves it. I mean, she's always hearing music around. We have a full studio in the basement. So
Mhm.
she gets firsthand to hear a lot of the band practices and everything. And I think she really appreciates the music and she really knows how much it means to our lives, and she's really
Mhm.
accepting with that.
Right. So it sounds like in your family that it's a form of communication of you expressing emotions to each other clearly amongst one another and being able to connect almost at a spiritual level with
Yes.
each other in your family to try to get to that deeper place of understanding. How does that make you feel, Ron?
Oh, music is completely spiritual. To me, when I play drums and sing at the same time. So I cannot think when I'm playing. I have to be, and my son even says this as well, you have to be in the zone. There's a movie out there called Soul,
Mm,
and it's by Disney, and it's basically about
I
that,
saw that. Yeah.
where you're in the zone. And when you're in the zone, you do not have mind.
Mm,
You're literal. I could never think about moving both my arms and both my feet and singing and actually think about it. I just have to feel it and do it. So music has a completely spiritual aspect to it, and I think we all feel that. Even my wife, just listening to the music, you can tell how deep it affects her.
mhm.
Yeah.
Well, that sounds beautiful. So, what advice would you give to other parents, especially fathers, who want to introduce music to their children? So where would you start with young fathers, or if um, a child is 10, 11, 12, or in their teens and they're interested in picking up a guitar, what sort of advice would you give them?
Well, what I would say to them is let the child pick the instrument the way he feels. You don't want to push an instrument on a child. Some people I know, they start with piano and the parents did piano and they force the kids to play piano. That's fine, but the child needs to be able to want to do this. So expose the child to different instruments. Here's, if you can't put drums in your house because they're too loud, maybe rent a little space and let them try some drums. If the guitar amps are too high, let them get a very small amp or maybe headphones and an acoustic guitar and let them try that. Let them try different things and let them choose the path that they want. That'd be number one, because you only really feel in your heart what you want to do. And if you want to sing, just let them sing as well. The second part is try not to be afraid of what the child does with their music, and don't have a set type of path of a path that you want a child to have for a job. Let them create their own. If they become, let them experience going to play in front of people. Let them, build their confidence up. And just don't be afraid if they start to do well and they want to divert and take some certain risks, because that's all part of this. If I held my son back at the beginning and didn't let him take the risks, he wouldn't be where he was. My daughter wanted to become a teacher, but then she says, no, Dad, I want to go into social media and write songs and do things.
Mhm.
I'm not going to scare her out of doing that. It's like, fine, you go experience it, try it and see what happens. If not, you always can go back on on your previous path. But, you don't
Mhm.
want to put fear into your child about what type of path they're going on. And I think that's really big too. If they're great at music, let them be.
Mm. Yeah, it sounds like what you're describing is that music is nonlinear,
Mhm.
and and that it's kind of a natural unfolding type of process. Is that what you're trying to say?
Yes, and it's naturally and it's natural and unfolding, and there's many aspects of it. Maybe you're
Mhm.
going to be a great mixer. Maybe you can work in a studio and record. Maybe you can um, work on a stage to set the bands up. You know, there's different paths that music has in it. Maybe you can be a songwriter and you can write songs and lyrics and poems for people that are musicians. So there's a whole bunch of different aspects of music. It's not like you have to play the instrument and be really good at it to make some money.
Mhm.
You can do so many different things. And you can write
Mhm.
music scores. You can write music for other people's videos, things like that.
Yeah. Would you suggest if your child is expressing some creative abilities, they maybe have put a guitar down or a keyboard down and just see what they gravitate towards and what they pick? Is that a good suggestion, or
Oh,
would you
for sure.
suggest that? Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, the more that you have in front, I mean, just like my son being exposed to the drums and that early, if he didn't like the drums, they would sit in a corner and they wouldn't play them. You know,
Mm-hmm.
maybe he wants to play piano instead, but he used the drums. He kept building. He wanted more. He wanted a better set. You know,
Mm-hmm.
put the guitar there. Some people, a lot of children say, "Ah, I want to play guitar." My son even got a guitar. He wanted to play
Mm-hmm.
guitar one time. We got him a guitar. It just sat there. It wasn't
Mm-hmm.
his thing, right?
Mm-hmm.
Some people are multi-instrumentalists.
Mm-hmm.
They'll play everything. You know, some guys I know musicians that play all of the stuff on their albums. There's also another aspect of it too is the writing music through the computer, writing music through the software we have today is just amazing. You can use pianos and different things like that right on a computer and create your own songs. You
Oh,
don't even have
wow.
to play, right? You can
Mm-hmm.
be musical and write lyrics and create your own, tracks.
Mm-hmm. So, how has sharing your music with your children changed your perspective on your own musical journey that you had?
Well, for one thing, my son definitely he showed me he's the one that got me into Ableton to be able to record. So if it wasn't for Dallas showing me how to using the software to record his music and then showing me, I would have had to start learning recording software from scratch. So his collaboration with me on the recording software was amazing because now I've recorded albums, I've recorded probably over 100 songs on this, and that is because of the collaboration that we had with music. We have shared different beats and the way to organize songs together. So
Mm-hmm.
he might say, Dad, I was listening to your band practice. Why don't you guys start it this way or end it this way? Hey, that's a great idea. Or I might even say to him, which I do, many times, I'm like, Dallas, why don't you, add something here or change or put some more reverb on this, or maybe take this section and add it to the end again. So there's a lot of collaboration in that, and we really sort of share ideas.
Yeah, your son is a grown man now. He's in
Yes.
his 20s.
Yes.
So, and how is the relationship with music with your son as a grown man as opposed to when he was a child? How is that different?
Um, well, as a grown man, I can tell that he has his lyrical content is just out of this world now. So when he
Mhm.
first started writing music, um, he would write the songs and the lyrics were kind of simplified and things. So I would sit down with him and I'd say, can you maybe use a different word than that? Maybe, a more, look at on Google and find different words, almost like a thesaurus kind of thing, and change your lyrics up. The arrangements have been more complex. The mixing and mastering that he does is more complex. So you can tell that now that he's older, his topics are better or more, well, his topics are more mature, his lyrics are more mature, and just the song structuring and all of the mixing, just the wisdom that he's gained from,
Mhm.
14, 15, all the way to 28. He's just got a massive amount of experience now. He's been on
So
tours across
having this,
Canada.
oh, sorry to interrupt
That's
there,
okay.
Ron.
You
So
know,
having this bond and this connection with music since he was a child to an adult. So him being an adult now, uh, how is the essence of your relationship as an adult now with your son? Is it a closer bond? Does it help you navigate challenges in your relationships, or is it without getting too personal? Like what?
no, it's a healthy bond, because it really allows us to spend the time together, and it's something that we're very deeply passionate about to talk together. So, in other words, we correspond a lot because of it. So we're
Mm,
always talking about it. And we're always, we're spending more time together because of the music. When we spend
mm,
more time together because of the music, we talk about stuff more. Then he shares more. Maybe if I wasn't talking to him about the music, he may not share certain other things, because when we talk about music, he might bring up other topics about his daily life. Hey, Dad, what do you think of this?
mm.
Just because
Yeah.
we're together through the music, now we're talking
Mhm,
about life situations and different things like that. So it's
mhm.
great because the time together is more.
Oh, that sounds fantastic. Um, so do you have any plans or dreams or of doing any musical projects with your kids at all? Or what would be your dreams in that aspect?
Well, you know what? I would love to. And I have approached Dallas many times to maybe do something together, but I don't know if that's going to happen. He is very sort of set in his recording and writing ways, and I don't know if he wants to collaborate with Dad yet. Maybe there'll be a day when he wants to, but I think that that's not going to happen at the moment. My daughter, she gets me into some of her TikToks and some of her stuff. So she
Yeah.
feels, but I think I'm being used as a little bit of a funny part of her movies, right? And
Yeah.
I'll get my dad in there, so he'll make it funny,
Yeah.
not, a true collaboration that way. But
But
um,
it is a collaboration, right?
yeah, it's a
Yeah.
collaboration where dad's a
Yeah.
little bit of a prop. But so yeah,
Um, so we'll have a couple closing thoughts here.
yes.
So is there any particular message you'd like to share with other dads about the importance of music in their children's lives?
I think the importance of music in the children's lives is to allow them to experience what they want and be creative. This is why we're here on earth, to be creative, to allow our own unique thoughts to be expressed in our own unique ways. And it makes them feel so happy. And you can see a sense of accomplishment. You
Mm,
have a song. I wrote the song from start to finish and I wrote the lyrics. Wow. I've got so many
mhm.
songs on Spotify. I created this video. My son just made he's making music videos now on software and putting them on YouTube. It's just sense of accomplishment. And I think that's just let them be free and let them do what they choose as long as they're on the right path.
Well, that's awesome. So where can our listeners find your music and learn more about your upcoming projects that you have?
Well, for my music, I have some stuff. I'm in a band called Seven Pillars, and I'm in a band called Tainted Soul. Tainted Soul music is on Spotify. Seven Pillars music, there's some songs on YouTube that you can check out. But if you want to listen to the Tainted Soul stuff, that's on Spotify, Apple Music, and all the platforms. And I think that's where you can catch me out. You can catch me doing the news on Rockandmetalnewz, all one word with NEWZ, and I put the daily news out, so you can catch me there as well.
Well, awesome. Thank you very much, Ron. Ron from Rock and Metal News. And thank you for joining us on our
Right on.
Devoted
Thanks so
Dad
much.
podcast. Yeah, man.
Right on, Scott.
So,
Thanks
yeah,
so much. It's nice
thank you
chatting
very
with you.
much.
Bye
Okay.
for now.
Bye.